So let's talk to Sacramento Mayor Darrell Steinberg. I know that you have been so open for a need for change in our community. You've been serving Sacramento community for more than 20 years. So in one sentence, how would you describe everything that's happening right now?
Well, it is a time of great change, Brittany, and necessarily so. And I know that Sacramento is not just up for that change, but up for helping to lead the change. Look, I came back to Sacramento. I've been in Sacramento, of course. I came back to run for mayor in 2016 because I wanted to see a city that continues to become a growing city, a cosmopolitan city, a city where millennials want to live, but also a city that includes everyone. And what we know, what we've always known, but what has been revealed certainly over these weeks is that we have great disparities between people who have every advantage in life and so many who do not. And it's often based on zip code, on neighborhood, and by race. And we have to acknowledge it and then make the changes in every facet of our society and our city to make for a better city and a better world. And that, yesterday,
Your press
I
conference?
commit myself to doing all I can over these next 4.5 years to end systemic racism in Sacramento. I can't do it alone, but that's got to be the top of the agenda.
It does. And I have to ask you this because you held your press conference yesterday and you really had two proposals aimed at holding police accountable. So you talk about police reform and you have a list of proposed ideas on how to do that with the Sacramento Police Department. So when you were thinking about those, where did you come from with that? Where did you come up with this is what we need to do to make those changes so that everybody in Sacramento feels safe and excited to be here?
Well, of course. Well, first of all, what I said yesterday, and with real humility, is that what I proposed yesterday is not the end or even the middle of the discussion. But I think it is a very strong beginning. And I put forward two bold proposals. One is to make sure that whenever there is an accusation of excessive force by a police officer or an officer-involved shooting or a death of a resident while in police custody, that there be an independent investigation. Right now, there is not. And I think we suffer from a collective credibility problem because everything else we do will not mean nearly as much if we don't ensure people that when something goes wrong, that we're going to investigate independently. That's number one. Number two, I think, is even more important and transformative. What I've said yesterday is that over the next 24 months, we should phase police officers out of 911 calls that do not involve allegations of criminal activity. The police are the first and last resort when you call 911. Fire as well when it comes to health emergencies. But any crisis, it could be homelessness, it could be a mental health crisis, the police respond. Not only is that not fair to them, because that's not really what they're trained to do, but it's also not always safe for the community because the presence of an individual, even well-intentioned, compassionate with a gun, a baton, and a uniform can invoke fear and trauma. And so this is the movement in this country. I don't believe in defunding the police. We need the police to respond to crime, real crime that goes on. But I think we need to redefine the role of a police officer in our community, and yes, shift the money from the police department to a new unit that will allow people who are trained but non-law enforcement to respond to these other kinds of calls. I think that's part of helping keep the community safe and, yes, officers safe as well.
And I think
but the beginning, not the end.
So I was going to ask you too, is that a lot of people were thinking, my goodness, where are we going to get this money to fund it?
Well, again, I'm calling for systemic change because, yes, we may need new money. And in fact, I said yesterday I want a $5 million down payment on establishing this new non-law enforcement unit. But really, it's about using our existing money in a better way. And yes, it's controversial, but I'm calling for shifting money from the police department over time. And the amount should equal the amount it takes for police to respond currently to these calls that do not involve criminal activity, and to shift that to a new unit in the city where non-law enforcement will respond to calls that don't necessarily need police officers, and where it's not either necessary and in many times not helpful.
So rethinking how we do things is what you're saying. So how long do you think this process will take? A year, 6 months?
Well, I think we begin now. And that's why I called for $5 million to establish this new department and to get started now. I think to do it right, it is going to have to be done assertively, but thoughtfully over the next 24 months. That's what I called for. It's going to be a lot of work, but this is why we do this. This is what is important. You know, what government often does is we try something, we pilot something, we throw some money to see if X, Y, Z works. The people are crying for systemic change, and it needs to be thoughtful change. It can't be knee-jerk just to respond to any idea just because. It needs to be thoughtful, and I think we do this over 24 months, but start now and redefine what we want our police officers to do in Sacramento. This will spread throughout the state and the country.
Okay, well, thank you so much for talking about police reform. I know we're going to go to a break, and then we're going to talk about the economy and reopening Sacramento because we have so many questions for you. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Mayor Darrell Steinberg is joining us to talk about Sacramento reopening. It's a big question we want to know, but I want to ask you this because I see you outside exercising. How do you take care of yourself? I mean, come on, your job is stressful right now.
It is a little bit stressful, but you know, as you mentioned earlier, I've served the community
for 20 years.
For a long time, and I've dealt with a number of crises. I mean, big budget crises in the state, and a number of things. And you know, what you do is you keep in good shape. You try to get a little bit of rest, and then you just get up every day. You dig deep, and you focus on trying to make your community better. It sounds corny, but I really wake up every day with a positive attitude. I mean, by the end of the day, sometimes I'm a little bit worn.
Yeah.
But that's what you do. You get up every day and you do the very best you can. It's all you can ask for people in life, and people are asking a lot of me, and rightfully so. And I'm trying to find that 5th and 6th and 7th year and continue to learn and grow and even be a better leader.
I think we're all trying to learn and grow. So my big question for you is, what do you think the next step is for the city of Sacramento when it comes to reopening?
Well, I want us to regain that momentum that we had before the coronavirus. Look, we're about to break ground on Major League Soccer, and the rail yards is about to take off in a huge way. Our commercial corridors are bursting with energy, and we've got to pay attention and invest in some of the corridors outside the central city, the Franklins, the Stocktons, the Del Pasos, the Macs, the Northgates. And we have got to translate all of this energy and passion and change around police reform, and also translate it to economic equity, because that is going to be the key. How we invest our federal stimulus dollars in a way that uplifts the people in the neighborhoods that have been affected disproportionately by COVID. And get back to tackling homelessness. You know, we brought in almost 800 people as a result of Operation Room Key, working with the county to take advantage of some of the federal dollars and bring more people in less time than we ever have before. We need to continue that momentum. So for me, it's getting back to the basics, grow this economy. Everything needs to be about inclusion and tackling housing and homelessness. And then as we do that, restoring trust between the people and the institutions. I know, I'm the symbol here. I know who I am as a human being and what my track record is and all the things I've done, but none of that really matters, because people aren't looking saying, well, look what you've done. They want to know what you're going to do. And so going forward, it is about being with people, listening to people, and responding in real and tangible ways to improving their lives. And that's what I'm going to try to continue to do. And that's what Sacramento's about, man. We are We are inclusive, we are engaging, we are forward thinking, and we are imperfect. And so not a bad place to try to lead.
Because I think about it, when we think about COVID-19, my goodness, you hear about these people that are, I don't have a job, I don't know how I'm going to pay for rent, I can't get groceries for my family. And then you think about, my goodness, I have to make sure people are safe, right? So that's a really hard line to walk, I would imagine. So what would you say to like the restaurant business that, you know, the workers, I know you have a grant now to kind of help fund so that they can have more businesses outside. How is that grant helping people?
Well, that's going well, but today at the City Council, we are going to pass a measure to allocate $10 million of federal stimulus funds to directly assist small businesses. And we're going to provide micro grants to as many businesses as we can, and as quickly as we can, and then provide them with the technical assistance so they can help get through this time. And so there isn't enough money to deal with every business that has suffered, but we can go a long way. Look, during this pandemic, we have stood up, I think, the best in the country food program for seniors by engaging over 40 restaurants, having them cook food instead of obviously for their usual customers. They're making and packaging the food, and then we, the community, are delivering the food to 1,500 seniors. This is the kind of creativity that Sacramento always exhibits. And so we have a lot of work to do to get people back on their feet, the small businesses, working people, our overall economy. The tourism sector is hurting a lot for obvious reasons. We've got to help bring that back. And so our job is to infuse the resources, to provide people hope, to make sure that we know, help people know where they can get the help, and then be positive about the future of this city, because the future is nothing but positive.
Leading by change. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day and your precious time to exercise, to kind of just give us hope and lay it out in a real way that we can understand. So we appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
So glad to be with you, Brittany. Thank you so much.
This interview involves commercial content. The products and services featured appear as paid advertising.